of gacha games today is wild, with games like Genshin Impact delivering basically a AAA experience and many raking in millions of dollars every single month. Gacha games have become a serious competitor and threat to the rest of the gaming industry. For some, it's the fact that it's so easy to play on the go, having the games accessible on your phone when you're out and about or lounging around in bed. For others, it's a low-cost barrier where most of these games offer a free-to-play experience. For others, they just like the thrill of the pulls, or maybe something about a particular game just happens to pique their interest. But nothing in this world is ever truly free. So what is the real cost of gacha? Games today are expensive. On top of having to drop multiple hundreds of dollars on a console or gaming PC, full-price games can cost over $50 each. Luckily, you can get around this for the most part by grabbing games on sale or playing more affordable games like indie games. But it can still dampen the excitement when the base prices are so daunting. Gacha games provide a much less intimidating bar of entry, as the financial cost is, well, absolutely nothing. Most gacha games advertise themselves as free to play, and for most people, they likely are. So there's really no hurdle to at least giving the game a try, especially when most people already own a smartphone that can run them. A free game that you can play as much as you want, whenever you want, without spending a dime sounds too good to be true, right? Well, yeah, because it is too good to be true. Sure, you can play most gacha games without opening your wallet, but the problem is, to have enough resources to pull or level properly, you're going to have to grind for those resources instead, through playing. Though login bonuses and other in-game giveaways can on occasion still give you free pulls or resources, the majority in most games will have to be farmed by doing repetitive daily tasks. And the dailies? They may seem quick and not take up too much of your day, but the more games you play, the quicker they add up, and can vary drastically from game to game. Dailies and nikke at launch used to be at minimum 30 minutes a day, though now I can complete most of them in around 15 to 25 minutes, depending on what dailies are active, since I put a lot of time into leveling already, so I can speed through many of them now. Reverse 1999, on the other hand, has less dailies, but many time-limited events to grind currency, like Limbo, Utu, and Main's Bulletin. And they can start to take a significant amount of time. How necessary these dailies are does depend on the game. For example, I've never really done my dailies in Honkai Star Rail outside of rare occasions when I just felt like it. And I managed to at least clear the first planet entirely without ever hitting a wall or being punished for not grinding. I haven't really had time to play since. However, I can't comment on whether or not it gets worse later on, so maybe I just haven't hit the wall yet. With nikke, there are more consequences to not clearing your dailies. If you don't complete your dailies, you won't get as many free pulls, nor will you be able to level up your gear, which is required if you want to be strong enough to clear any content later in the game. And as you progress, the power level you must reach becomes higher and higher, which means that each part of the game is locked behind a certain amount of grinding, which keeps you playing every day in fear of missing out when new content drops. I will give nikke credit, however, for having the base level of its events being quite low, so even if you hit a wall in the main story, you'll still be able to clear featured and anniversary events. Reverse 1999, to an extent, has the same issue. Luckily, a feature has since been added, enabling the player to clear the main story on lower difficulties. But for a lot of the side content, like unlocking costumes in Utu, diligent farming will still be required to get your levels, insight, and resonance high enough. And the most important note about dailies in these two games, as well as most other games, is that you can only complete a certain amount per day. So you can't just find a day to binge farming, you have to make a habit of playing. Though it is great that games offer an option for people unwilling or unable to pay, there's a crucial time management element to many gacha games. This requirement to play every day, or at least frequently, makes them more lifestyle games than something you'd pick up and binge on your Switch until you finish or retire to your eternal backlog until you feel like playing again. And with lifestyle games taking time every single day for many players, they eventually pile up if you keep picking up new games. For me, 2 gacha games is probably my limit before the dailies would just become too disruptive. But I see friends and other streamers playing 4, 5, or even more gacha games simultaneously, and I just, how? How do you have time for these dailies every single day? Which made me curious, and I decided to calculate how much time I spend, roughly, per year, on dailies already. nikke dailies take me about 20 minutes a day. Often, I can clear them in 15, but for the sake of days with overclock, solo raids, or long event minigames, let's say it's about 20. Reverse 1999 takes about 10 minutes, though this is because I play a bit slower while multitasking, since luckily I can set most dailies to auto. However, It still means mentally being aware that the dailies are running and making time for them. Together, that's around 30 minutes per day. So let's do the math. 30 minutes per day leads to 210 minutes per week, or a whopping 10,950 minutes per year, which is over 182 hours or 7.5 days straight. That is unfortunately not a lie. I did the math 3 times. It checks out. I could have cleared multiple games in my backlog in the time I spent just doing dailies. That's not even including the time I spent clearing new content. I knew that even a small amount of time each day would add up when there are, 365 days in a year, but I didn't think it would add up to be quite that much. And the only alternative to skip the daily grind? Open your wallet. But even then, resources are not cheap. In Nikke, for example, you can buy a monthly pass to help grind cores, one of the hardest to obtain materials, but this monthly pass costs over $15, and you will only gain 1 resource of your choice per day, still leaving you dry for other resources unless you grind your dailies anyway or pay even more money. And even assuming you don't care about resources and plan on just playing the events, you won't be saving up as many pulls, especially if you even skip daily logins. And a 10 pull costs roughly $30 per attempt. Furthermore, in most games, paid currencies offer double the value for your first purchase on each step, enticing you even more to cave and just spend that first bit. But once you cave, it's easier to continue to spend, and sometimes in escalating amounts. If you aren't careful, it can be a slippery slope before your free-to-play game becomes more expensive than a pricey console game, or even pricey enough to put you in financial danger. And because these games continue for long amounts of time and are constantly being flooded with more and more banners and content, there's seemingly no end to the dailies grind or the spending. Not to mention the constant bombardment of advertising and memes that keep the game living rent-free in your head. So why do we continue playing these games? And why are we enticed to check out even more of these games when they're announced? Let's go back to the beginning, shall we? For some people, including me, it's simply worth it to us, despite the time we're spending. Sure, it might be annoying, but without enticing people to spend, no one would. And as unfortunate as it may be, modern gacha games do rely on whales to stay afloat instead of ending service. And hey, at least for people who do have the time but not the money, dailies give the resources they need to play at all. So we can turn our noses up all we want at the daily grind or the high prices for premium resources, but we only get the game in the first place because of these things. Because hey, the devs gotta feed themselves and fund the game. And no one would spend on resources if a game gave away too many too easily for free. I'll admit that sometimes I even enjoy the dailies, even if they are a bit repetitive. It just feels nice to be a part of something, enjoying a game as it progresses with the community, even if it does take a lot of time and admittedly some days becomes a bit of a chore. It's worth it to enjoy the game alongside so many other people. So even if the time cost is a bit more painful when you realize you could have cleared Metaphor Refantasio 3 times in the duration it takes to complete your dailies in a year, it's worth it if you feel like a game's holding your time hostage or bleeding your wallet dry beyond your means. Maybe it's time to take a break, despite all the previous time and money sunk in, and reevaluate if the game is still worth it. But if you're still enjoying it, there's no shame in giving time or money to things you like, as long as you're enjoying it and as long as you can. Though it would be nice if companies could stop releasing high-quality gacha games every other month because I only have so much time for dailies in my routine already. But anyway, in a world where work, social media, social life, never-ending game backlogs, and, basic human things like showering, cooking, working out, and sleeping already feel like a struggle, 30 minutes per day adds up to be a lot more than we think. Until we add up the time and are forced to take a look at the big numbers. The cost of money is something we understand quite clearly, but at the end of the day, we can always get more money in the future. Time, however, is a finite resource. Once it's gone, we can never get that time back. So are gacha games worth the time cost of the daily grind? Personally, as long as the dailies can fit in a reasonable window and can mostly be done while multitasking, it's worth it for me. I enjoy enjoying games with you guys, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments if it's worth it to you.